Hey, is this where I'm supposed to do that now, the sponsors and stuff? Because I'll let Nikolai do our sponsors since he kind of knows them all. All I'll say is
Oh, you guys work. I'm just gonna hang out here.
I'll be at the fairgrounds Saturday.
Oh, I
Uh,
forgot my coffee, Dave. Come
oh,
on now.
geez, I'm sorry. I got my water, but I'll be at the fairgrounds Saturday for the Disabled American Veterans Car Show. I'll be emceeing that, so that'll be a good
Oh,
time.
that's cool. That's this Saturday.
That's this Saturday at the Olmsted County Fairgrounds. So
Sweet, man.
come on out and support your disabled American veterans. Otherwise, Nikolai, you get our sponsors.
So wait, hold on quickly. So, this is obviously on my channel. For those of you that don't know these two, I just met these two probably in the winter. This last winter here. This is my buddy Nikolai Zeppa, aka Nick McLaughlin. Look at him, look at him. Don't smile at me. There's no smiling on this Facebook Live, okay? Wipe it off. Wipe it off. And then Dave Chiarini here. Anyways, so I'd just like to give a shout out to Donate Life, shirt I'm wearing today. Special place in my heart. I don't know if you two are organ donors, but make sure you are signed up. DMV, go to the DMV, get signed up. It's a great organization and a great cause as well. So I'll hand it off to Nick. Just some shout outs that you want to give, bud.
Well, we've got events coming up. So this Saturday, Phil Kish and yoga instructor, they're doing cupping yoga at Roca Climbing. That's at, I believe, either 9:30 or 10:30. Look it up online. Also next Saturday, we've got the first ever Bulbo Ball of Rochester tournament. That starts at 9:30. Next Saturday, the 12th, and I just found out yesterday, one of our sponsors for the podcast, Steve at the Rochester Smoke Shop, is having a big 3-year anniversary sale on the same day, August 12th. The astronauts will probably be there representing. We have a lot of stuff coming up.
So the reason I want to bring you guys poolside talk, like I told Tim, obviously you got to be close to me if, you're sitting poolside. It's kind of a big deal.
Vote for Derek Chapman. This is our last week to vote for Derek Chapman for best food truck of Rochester, and also what else? Dave? Best pizza, Rochester's choice.
Quickly, I know Derek. You know Derek. We all know Derek. Why should he win? Why? I've had his pizza. His pizza's fantastic. He's also going up against probably some other food trucks. I know Mahadam Dadich, who has the Back Alley Kitchen. Great guy. Great food as well. Why is Derek deserving?
Derek deserves it because, one, he's arguably one of the most loyal people I've ever met, but two, the pizza is actually dang good. If you've never had wood-fired pizza, kind of changes the game of pizza. One, it's done quicker, so when you're hungry, you don't have to wait. But two, it's just the ingredients and how it all comes together with that wood fire is pretty incredible. Plus, he's a great guy. He deserves it.
I want to give Dave a chance. You know Derek, too.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty amazing pizza. It's got that personal touch too, so it's nice to get it right in your hand, nice and hot, fresh ingredients, and he's always coming up with crazy new pizzas of the week. So definitely deserving of an award. Just like you guys probably are with KAL. Vote for you guys, right? I'm sure you're up there for news station, right?
I'm sure, yeah. I'm not sure, but I'm sure. Let's take a step back and let's talk about how you two met each other. Him and I were just talking before you got here. You couldn't defend yourself. He's talked about your guys' past and how you guys have crossed paths. That's hard to say. Many times. How did you guys meet and how did you get to where you guys are at today?
I had this company with my cousin called Digital Avenue at the time, and he had a home studio and stuff like that. And I think I was just about to be turning 21. And I'd known Dave, went to school with like my sister, my brother-in-law, all those people. And yeah, so I heard this guy, Dave Chiarini, DJs down in Mickey's. So then I turned 21, and then I started going in there every once in a while. And Dave, he was really interested in music, so we just kind of hit it off. And he's always been my homie. Like, we've definitely separated, but then we came back into each other's life. And we just hit the ground running. This is actually like, what, a year and a half ago? Yeah. About? Yeah, we came back into each other's lives, and we just kind of, where we were in life, we're like, dude, let's make this happen. So really, that's kind of where it all came from. And me and Dave, we met at a bar.
Not getting into details, why did you guys feel like you guys wanted to come back together as a team? And again, now obviously you started up this podcast, Stationary Astronauts, and you guys are doing big things in town here. But why did you feel like you wanted to take that extra step and become friends with this crazy guy again?
It's funny is like Nick said, we met, and kind of how we met was, we started doing these parties together where we would throw Digital Avenue parties at Mickey's back in the day, and I was the DJ for them, and I would work with these guys, and that spawned off into doing some charity, which ended up becoming the Party for a Cause, which we ended up doing for 3 years straight. And somewhere in there, though, is where Nick, had his own personal stuff going on, like everybody does. I did as well. His cousin did as well. So everybody kind of started doing their own thing. Nick kind of was just absent from the Rochester area for a while, actually. So it was because we really reconnected at a wedding. Randomly, and I didn't even realize who I was talking to. It took me about 30 seconds when finally I was like, oh crap, Nick, all right, and then months later we got the freeze involved, and that's when we both kind of got reconnected through that again. I'm the type of guy that there is, I know how things went between me, him, and his cousin back in the day, and there may have been some hard feelings, whatever, between three of us. But I mean, I like to think that I can see people who are trying to be genuine and people who are trying to make a positive impact, even if the past wasn't completely like that, because we all have our past.
You can't hold a grudge.
You can't, no. And honestly, just to see, because I think I saw you at that wedding literally right before your first Off the Grid August, and just seeing the excitement of you going to the jungle and finding life was really cool. That I was like, this was cool to kind of reconnect. And then when the freeze came in, it got even further, and then that's when you brought the idea of the podcast. So I mean, I had already been doing podcast and radio and KROC for many years, and when you brought that idea, it was right timing. I had just got out of my last podcast show and was like, yeah, you know what, let's give this a shot.
Thanks for bringing up the podcast. That was my next question. How did the stationary astronaut come about? I mean, him?
No. Dave kind of just sparked it. I'll tell you where it came from.
Yeah. So it's funny because I think it had a name beforehand, right? The Useful Podcast, it had a name beforehand.
Well, the podcast, we named, the company is Stationary Astronaut. The podcast is a branch, but we decided to, because people were getting so confused, let's just get rid of the Useful Podcast and beyond, and let's bring it all into just the Stationary Astronauts.
Where did that come from? Who came up with Stationary Astronauts, the name?
Simple. Okay, so the majority of us, 99.9% of us, are never going to go to the moon, okay? But you can still reach for the stars. You can still shoot for the stars, and you have to find it within, okay? So Stationary Astronaut is an oxymoron, all right? We have a universe of we have a universal organism going on within our body right now. Just our gut bacteria alone is incredible. The amount of bacteria that's in there. It's more than we have stars up in our sky. Okay, the length of our guts, of our intestines. Okay, spans for miles. All right. Could you imagine how much bacteria is in there? We have a little universe inside of us. Now, have you ever meditated?
Yeah.
Okay, meditation is powerful because when you get good at focusing on your breath, you can actually kind of leave your body a little bit. Okay, and it's pretty much you're reconnecting with source. Okay, whatever we want to call source, whatever we call it, what it is. So basically, when you meditate or you float with John at Nalu Float, okay, that's kind of a performance-enhancing drug for meditation, all natural, just floating in Epsom salt. When you do that, you are able to explore regions of your brain, regions of your psyche you might not ever knew existed. Okay, so when you do that, you are basically becoming a stationary astronaut. But when I go down to the jungle and we experiment down there and we work with jungle doctors and shamans and professionals, that's where they really get it out of you. They show you that, oh my gosh, from going so deep within, I can reach the stars. And that's where Stationary Astronaut came from. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Mic drop, right? Did you have anything to add to that, or did he pretty much hit it? Or
I mean, he pretty much hit it. I mean, it was Nick's baby, Stationary Astronaut, and the podcast. It's kind of nice, though, because Stationary Astronaut could be interpreted different ways. Like, I look at it kind of like you said, we're never going to go to space because we're here, and not everybody is lucky enough to be a legit NASA astronaut. But I look at it as just because we're in this one spot doesn't mean we can't explore the world, the universe, people, meet different people from different walks of life. So, I mean, it's really cool to be able to interpret that differently. It is kind of just a way of life, too, and a mindset, so.
Let's talk about what you guys are doing. I remember we were at the Loop one night, and I met Nick for the first time. Obviously, I knew Tim Nella, who's been Poolside Talk before. When I met Nick, it was during the winter. You had the stationary astronaut, sweatshirt on. I just remember the passion that was just kind of sweating out of your body. You could just see it and how passionate you were for this stationary astronaut. And I remember thinking to myself, I thought, I've heard of podcasts before. I'm not really into podcasts now. I am, but at the time I wasn't really into podcasts. And Tim's like, "Yeah, dude, you gotta come onto the show. Maybe you and Laura Lee, or whatever." And I'm like, "Yeah, maybe I'll check it out, but I don't think I'm gonna be that interested." And I would just encourage anybody watching right now to check it out. Just encourage, because you guys give a whole scope of topics. Like your episode that just dropped today, you had the winner of the Armory in Rochester in town, Scott Haas and Nora Anderson.
Yeah, and Ross Anderson.
And Russ. But kind of describe to me how it's grown, Nick, and where it's about to go, maybe, without giving too many details.
Well, I'm already on like my third executive summary, okay, breaking down our business, because it did just start off as clothing and podcast. And now it's turned into way more than that, where we're doing promo videos, we are bringing out characters, we are turning into a marketing hub. I would like for us, in a decade, to be an ad agency where you see a stationary astronaut skyscraper up in the city of Rochester, and we stay true. We don't sell out to New York City or the Twin Cities or Los Angeles. We stay here. Because here, like Sonny said when he came on our show early on, Rochester is a blank canvas. So right now, we are one podcast here in a town of a small metropolis of maybe 120,000 people. But there are probably a handful of podcasts here in town. You go to Los Angeles, everyone has a podcast. Okay, so you're competing with an entire river of salmon as opposed to just a few trout in a lake. You get my drift?
Oh, I love that.
So that's what we're getting at with our show. Yes, we see what's happening with radio, okay? It's not so much radio is dying. The airwaves are always going to be there, but advertising for radio will unfortunately eventually die. Same thing on television. People are TiVoing everything. They are recording everything. They have Netflix. They have HBO Go. They're not watching commercials. Okay, that's a big problem when you're an advertiser. So what we're trying to do, we're trying to basically give people a guerrilla route, give business owners a guerrilla route to advertise. All the while, you don't necessarily have to do it on our podcast. We've got some big things coming down the pipeline where you're going to want to jump on board with us, because we can guarantee organically that people are going to see your business and know what your business is, as opposed to it's a coin flip whether people watch commercials or not, or they have to be in their car at that certain time on that certain radio station to hear the ad you're pushing out to them. It's not the case with us. All our numbers are organic. So that's huge.
So I love that. But describe to me where this has gone now. I mean, you guys are almost to episode 50 now.
Coming up.
I mean, you knew you were going to get to this point, but did you think it was going to get to this point?
The response we've gotten from the area, from Rochester and around this quickly, I don't think we expected it, and I don't think we expected to get the quality guests we have gotten in such a short amount of time. I mean, there's been a few where it's like, okay, we kind of just brought some friends on maybe to help out, fill a spot or whatever, but for the majority of our shows, we've had quality guests that have something to offer as far as a show and a story. JT Thompson is a great guy, musician who's he's doing great right now, but also an Army Ranger, former Army Ranger. Judy Bratz from the local chamber. We like you said, we had Dr. Renando. We had Dino on, who just became the Lourdes head basketball coach. And
Minority one ever in the HVC.
Yeah, the first minority head coach in the HVC.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, and this last one we just had, it was huge just because people wanted to know what was going on with the Armory.
And they want that in-depth, too, on a radio broadcast or on a news broadcast. We can't give you an hour. We don't have an hour's length.
Mhm.
We don't have that hour's length, which that's why I like doing this, where I can get in depth with you guys and show people, what you guys are doing, and maybe people, I have, my fiance's family in Colorado. They're, why do I care about you? You know what I mean? You guys, but maybe we can give them maybe some passion or some, insight, and to maybe do something on their own. But anyway, sorry.
Well, no, and that's the perfect thing about our show too is we're local, but we're not. Like, we're local as far as the people we've kind of brought on so far and what we talk about, but really, we like to get into everyday stuff that anybody can relate to. Really, we just want to give our views. We want to let people take a look into our lives, me, Nick, and Tim, and also just bring some very cool people that we think people around here should know, or not even just around here, everywhere should know these people because they're interesting people, and it's fun. I mean, why would we not be doing this if it wasn't fun from the get-go? Nick and I have probably like 5 episodes that have been vaulted that have never seen the light of day, and I listened back to some of them recently, and I was like, man, they were still fun then. Like, it was fun. You can see us trying and exploring to see what this was going to actually end up becoming, and now to see where we're at, it's like, wow. But we put our passion into it, and it's showing now.
Karsen, what's your favorite kind of noodle when it comes to spaghetti?
Spaghetti noodles. Get out of here. I want to put you on the spot for doing that, especially. You and I have talked, and the last episode you had, very informative episode. You've also had some episodes that can go, either way. You could have maybe some swearing on the episodes, maybe not. And I know you guys put a disclaimer on there, right? So people will know that. But tell me why you are you. Tell me why you will not change that. And tell me why, it's okay to be yourself and use the language that you use on your podcast, and just to give people an idea. I'm playing devil's advocate right now.
Well, to understand that, you'd have to understand where I came from. I came from a small town, grew up pretty much without a father, and had to make mistakes in life to learn. That's the only way I've learned what I've learned in life, is by making mistakes. Shoot, in between the age, I think, of 18 and 22, I was incarcerated like 14, 15 times. Okay, and most of them, don't get me wrong, they weren't new charges. They were like probation violations, stuff like that, where, Nick, we got to bring you in. But the thing is it was, I wouldn't change a thing. I wouldn't change the Minneapolis police beating me to a pulp while tasing me and breaking my nose. Guess what happened to those charges? Everything was dropped. We see what's going on with Minneapolis right now, and their police. Like, they're kind of corrupt. They're out being the bad guys in the street, and I saw it firsthand. They just said I went for my waistband. What are you talking about? That was a lie. I was in my pajamas. So I've been through so much. And that's where you get realness when you listen to our podcast. If it's not from my other 2 compadres, you're definitely going to get it from me that night, and vice versa on different nights. You really have to kind of know that I've lived in small town, midwestern town. Okay, I've also lived in a small metropolis like Rochester. We moved here in 2000. Okay, when I was 12, lived here, and then I've also lived in St. Paul for a year, and Minneapolis for a year. And doing that really it cultured me. And it wasn't that I wasn't already cultured when I played, basketball for so long and stuff like that, where I have minorities all up and down my team. It's not that. I'm talking about the day in, day out reality that you see, that you're engulfed in. I remember my first night living in my first night living in Minneapolis. I was walking back from a meeting to my apartment, and some native dudes pulled a gun on me. Okay, and this is my first night living in Minneapolis, just pretty much on 94, just on the other side of the fence, okay, right at Chicago and Franklin, all right? When you have that happen to you, and, it's crazy, because that wasn't the first time a gun's been pulled on me. In a matter of 10 minutes, I had 2 guns pulled on me here in the city of Rochester, 1 by the dude who was robbing me, and 2 by a police officer that didn't believe I just got robbed. You know what I'm saying? Like, dude, there's realness that people don't see on a daily basis. And it's something that you guys might not even be able to portray on your news station, because it's so raw, and the story didn't come out of it. Just a happening came out of it. A murder didn't happen. None of that stuff. Drug charges didn't happen. It comes from this stuff is happening on a daily basis. It's happening in a park right now, maybe, you know, but we're not going to hear about it. It's until you get a sit down with degenerates where you sit down for an hour, you're going to hear some of this stuff. Shoot, Sonny told us a story. That's how it got brought up on our podcast. He told us a story about getting robbed at gunpoint down in Des Moines, you know, when he lived down there. This is raw realness that you get out of our podcast. You can't get it out of a radio interview, a 4-minute blurb. You know, plus they're not going to even be able to air that kind of stuff. With us, you can. With the internet, you can. It's all these little instances that make me. And it's I'm sorry, man. I'm grandfathered in. If I walk into, I know when to filter myself. You know. Right. So Dave and I, we MC for Big Bang Entertainment across the country for Reebok Ragnar races, and I know that I can't be swearing on that microphone. Him and I are trying out. Did you hear back? We're trying out for the Timberwolves PA announcer on the 17th. I can't swear during that. You know what I'm saying? So logically, you have to be able to filter yourself. All the while, people need that real and rawness in their life.
People have heard a swear, especially when it's an adult podcast too. People have heard swear words in their life, and if they don't want to listen to that, they can go on to the next episode. They don't have to listen to.
Send it, Linda. Send it. Keep it moving, Linda. Keep it moving. Here to take jobs.
Talk to me about your personalities, because we were talking about this. Dave is kind of Dave. You're kind of you. You're unique. You're all unique, but you're you're Nick. And then you got Tim kind of right in the middle, and he's said it before. Dave kind of described to me you, and you're kind of the techie guy on the podcast, and you're more low-key. You're just kind of making sure everything's running smoothly, the audio's good, and you'll chime in with questions here and there. And kind of you described to me yourself.
Tell us, Grandpa. Tell us.
Yourself, Nick, and then Tim. Describe all you guys.
I don't know if I like that I went from the dad of the show to the grandpa of the show, but, well, you know, and it's interesting, going back to what you had just asked Nick about, you know, and we were talking about it inside before we came out here about, you know, you are who you surround yourself around and stuff like that. So there is questions from people, old school mentality, where they're like, you know, yeah, we brought some guests on that have definitely, the shows have gone off the rails, off the tracks. JT is a perfect example of someone, whenever he's on, we have to put the not safe for work in the description, just because you don't want to listen to him telling his stories if your boss is walking by, because it's going to be like, what in the hell was that? You know, you know, but what I think is really great about our show is, like you said, the different dynamics in this show is like, yeah, we don't always agree with each other on everything, on what's going on, and we've had that where we talk about it and debate it, but we still can coexist. We still can be friends and still have a great show and still be entertaining. And that's a lost thing. Coexisting today in just the world is so hard for people. And I don't know why. Well, that too. And that is too. Yeah, I do that just because we want all walks of life to listen. Right, so we're not going to, and that's just it. Yeah. I mean, and I'll straight up say, like, well, just, I'm playing devil's advocate right now, but sometimes it's like, well, no, I just don't agree. This is how I see this. But it's funny because I'm not as techie as people think, though, when they look at the show. And they're like, I know the basics, but I can make it go. But yeah, I'm kind of the dad of the group. I'm the voice of I'm voice of reason. I'm the logistics guy. So when, like, people start getting hopped up on ideas and stuff, I'm the guy that has to bring everybody back down and be like, how can we physically make this happen and do it right? But it just works.
Talk to me about this guy. So how would you describe him on the show?
I mean, Nick's crazy. Nikolai's a crazy, crazy wild card guy, but you wouldn't have it any other way. You wouldn't, because it brings his character out. It brings who he really is out. And that's the other thing, too, is he may go back and forth with people on certain things. He may fight a point to death or whatever. But at the end, when it's all said and done, he still has an open heart to anybody and everybody who's just willing to be kind. You know, it's not like he's going to be like, I don't agree with you, so we're done.
Scott Hoff.
Yeah, yeah.
We'll hear. I haven't listened to it yet, but we'll hear it. I'm not done with you. You want to just quickly chime in?
Well, yeah, just a small example. Scott Hoss the other night, I really had to hammer home how the Armory was going to pay bills with a bookstore. So we really had to hammer that home, and pretty much I definitely got under his skin, but it's all hugs at the end, babe.
So you described Nick, maybe a little bit more of Nick, and then get to Timmy too.
Well, and the thing is too is Nick's the guy. He's kind of the idea guy. I mean, really, this was his baby. This is how it all started. I was just in a spot where I needed to find my outlet since I was not on the radio anymore. And I had been doing podcasting for a while, and that just wasn't working for me, the show and the dynamic and the person I was doing it with. So when Nick brought it to me, it was like perfect because we didn't have a really, really, really close relationship like I did with the guy I was doing a show with before. So there wasn't that as much emotion tied in. Now, yeah, it's probably different because now there's kind of a brotherhood between the three of us. But, I mean, yeah, like I said, I wouldn't change anything. But Nick is that wild guy when we're out and about. He's going to be the one that's in a costume when me and Tim might not be.
But it's interesting because when you guys came to the station and Nick had the whole get up, and that's just Nick. He dressed up as John Burgundy, he called it.
Burt Wellington had to change the name. Trademark, Burt Wellington.
Anyways, but it was so funny because you come in, you're like, we're here to take jobs, you're just being the character yourself. But then when we got into the podcast, it was amazing how the switch just flipped, and how you really like dug into Laura and I wanted to get behind the scenes, and I just appreciated that, and you let us open up and talked about like our experiences and what stories stick out and the things that are important that you don't see during a 30-minute broadcast. So, Tim Nella.
Timmy was a late addition. Literally, night before first episode, we brought Timmy in.
Why?
Well, because he reached out to Nick, wanted to be involved. He's like, yeah, he wanted to do a podcast. Exactly. I want to do a podcast. What do you think?
I hope he's watching.
And so it just worked out that we were literally about to record and like I said, we had like 5 in the vault that have not been released, but this is like tomorrow. We are recording our very first one and putting it out finally. And it just worked out that Tim reached out. We brought him in. The great thing about Timmy is on our shows, you get to basically see his life unfold. You get to see his stress he's dealing with in life because he's going through changes in his life. He's going from that 20-something-year-old party guy, everybody loves me, to where now I'm becoming almost 30. I'm an adult. What do I want to do? His birthday is Saturday, so a big shout out to him. But it's fun because you get to see his life unfold, and it's almost like Nick and I are his therapist at times.
Okay, so if you tune in, our trio casts are pretty much therapy sessions for Timmy. Definitely some of the early ones. We've had to hammer home some things, but Timmy, the growth I've seen go through this dude over the last even over the last 2 months has been incredible because Timmy, he might be a hardhead, but he wants to listen, and he will listen, and he wants to grow. So because he's a guy where he doesn't have a dog, doesn't have a cat, he doesn't have a girl or anything he's tied down to, no kids, obviously. So he gets to be that wild boy. Dave might call me the wild boy, but really it's not. I'm going home at 10:30, 10 o'clock at night, typically. You know what I'm saying? That's the latest. I'm an old man. Timmy can stay out till 3 o'clock in the morning, get an Uber home, then wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning to go to the gym. You know what I'm saying? The dude, he's a machine all the while. It's just like rock star lifestyle. It doesn't last that long. You know, you eventually get crippled, get in a car accident, or you fade into the blackness and then go through a deep depression because the limelight isn't on you anymore. So we're getting to see Timmy go through this like rock star transition. And it's pretty cool because the more people tune in, the more they're going to realize the growth of Timmy Nella. And that needs to be commended, I think. Happy birthday, Timmy. It's coming up.
Yeah, it's interesting because, he's 29 on Saturday, huh? It'll be a happy early birthday, buddy. I'm trying to think because I've kind of asked everything that I wanted to ask, and I'm trying to think if there's anything else that maybe you guys want to touch on now that I have you guys here and you guys came through, and maybe there's something that you wanted to.
What's your obsession with Stationary Astronaut?
Honestly, it's I'm a media guy, so I cling to like a podcast. I cling to news. I like in-depth. And I like the new way of news too. And I know we've all talked about that. And I support that. And I'm a news junkie and I support what you guys are doing. I like the gear too. I like the hat. Shout out to you for giving me this hat.
You stole it, but really you stole it from my girl, Laura Lee.
Hi, Laura. You still got to get her a hat though. But no, I like the gear, and I wanted to bring up this too. Elysium this last weekend, Saturday, big event at the Freight House. I want to just give you guys some positive feedback, and I loved your guys' MC. Like, I love how you guys are on the mic. I love how you guys can bounce each other off ideas and like yell at Dave when he's T-Rexing over in the patio. I love that kind of stuff. And if there's ever an event that I plan, you guys are my MCs, hands down. Like, but talk about maybe that bond that you guys have MCing and how you guys kind of. I'll let him go first, and then you can add to it.
Well, That's
the first time I saw you guys in action was Saturday.
Yeah,
and it was awesome.
Dave and I, we've done over the last couple months 2 or 3 Reebok Ragnar events together. That's definitely was a jump start for us. Last year we announced some freeze games together, but more or less where I've gotten comfortable on stage or where I've gotten comfortable on a microphone is just doing our podcast. And me and Dave and I have only missed one together, and that was the Jerema Silva and Bryn McManus episode, or 2. A couple, the Facade episode. That's right, I had Steiner engineer that one. But we've missed a couple together, but we've done 48 together, you know. So, I mean, do the math there. We've had a lot of time on the mic together. So we're able to kind of bounce things off. I thought for sure on Saturday when there was that Denzel Washington picture on the drum set and I put the microphone up to it, I thought for sure you were going to hit us with some Denzel lines. Thought for sure. But no, we'll get better because, like, even me, like, I'll have a brain fart and Dave will just take over real quick. Like, he'll just hop in. He recognizes it, and that's where being in a studio together so often, so much, we've kind of, we're soulmates now. And he gives me back rubs on Tuesday nights. For some reason, he missed last night. It was weird. I rub his feet on Saturdays, and it's really, we've grown this bond together, and it can't be broken.
Yeah, talk to me, because you've done events before being with Nick, correct? I mean, you've DJ'd and you've done that kind of stuff, so you have an idea.
Yeah, I have a pretty extensive background as far as working a microphone. I mean, I went to school for radio broadcasting. I worked with KROC for over 10 years while doing that, Z-Rock and some other stuff that was all the sister stations. I interned for Drive 105, which was at ABC Radio at the time, which was sister stations with KQRS and 93X at the time. So I've been around a lot. I've learned a lot in a very short amount of time, and then going out into the world and doing it. And while doing that is when I got the job at Mickey's doing bar DJing, which really forced me to learn how to work a microphone in front of a crowd. Doing that also gave me events of charity events where I'd MC, ring announcing, doing the bars, what got me doing ring announcing for MMA and local boxing shows, which was a whole different experience. Eventually, I ended up getting into stand-up comedy for a while and was doing open mics for a while, which also was a whole new aspect of learning how to work a mic in front of a crowd, especially a crowd that's just literally dead quiet staring at you like, make me laugh, funny boy, like, it's on you, man. But I mean, I just have a lot of experience. I've had a lot of great people too around, Brent Ackerman, Tim Hudson, James Raby, Tracy McCrae, Troy Duncan, Scotty Matthews, Rich Peterson. Scotty's a great guy, and him and I actually kind of came in at KROC at the same time. He started like a month before me. But I mean, yeah, like Rich Peterson, Andy Brown, now all these people who have been mainstays in the radio industry here in Rochester for many, many years. All of them have given me great advice, shown me what I need to know. And I feel like even before coming with Nick, I know how to work a mic, and I can kind of banter with whoever I'm going to be doing this with. I've done many Ragnars before we brought Nick on where it was just me. And you just go with it. You just got to have fun with it. So it works. And, I saw the potential in Nick, brought him on for some Ragnars because the shows are going good. But, I mean, yeah, when you do 48 episodes in 3-4 months, that's not a lot of time for a lot of episodes. Yeah, you definitely get to know the people you're doing, and especially on those Ragnars. We're together Thursday through Sunday when we fly home. We're in the car together, we're on the flight together, we're in the hotel together. We are together. The only time we're really not together is when we're literally working, and even then we're usually together. He does. He loves my CPAP machine.
All right, so I'm going to ask you 2 final questions, guys. I'm going to ask you the first one so you can think about it. $1,000,000 question, why should people listen? Okay, and I'm going to explain why I'm going to ask that. Let's say I'm a guy who's a Rochester native. I'm 64 years old, and I'm just retired, 65, just retired, and I worked at IBM. And now I'm looking for a hobby. Maybe, I'm interested in maybe these podcasts. I'm interested in, what's going on, what the millennials are listening to. So I'm sitting at home in my Rochester home, which I've lived in for a while, and I'm on the internet, and I come across Stationary Astronauts. Nick, why should I listen?
Well, you're a single 64-year-old male. You should definitely jump right to that Judy Bratz episode, set up a Match.com account, and go find my baby girl, Judy. That's why you should listen if you're a 64-year-old man. Otherwise, don't be creepy. You don't need to tune in to us. If you want to, go ahead. I'm not going to force your hand. We have a way different demographic than a 64-year-old dude. I'm going to be honest.
Than a 38-year-old or somebody.
Oh, well, if anyone who loves stories needs to tune into our podcast because of the stories and the meat of the stories you get out of it, you're actually going to come away from each episode with something, even if there wasn't a lot there. That's why I would tell anyone to listen, even a 64-year-old man, a 38-year-old. Just tune into us while you're driving to work. You're definitely going to be commuting. Tune in because you're going to laugh. That's kind of my job on the show, is to say some outlandish stuff and make you giggle. You don't know what to expect. And I don't do a lot of research on my guests when we go in. I like to learn with the listeners. So you're going to get those kind of questions. You're not going to get the cliche expected questions out of our show. You're going to get off-the-wall questions, which we force our guests to answer.
The hard questions, too, like you did last night.
I hammer it home because don't get me wrong, I still mentally prepare. So we typically know the gist of the guests coming on, so I go in there and I'm racking my brain for the week downtime, waiting for the show while I'm driving. I'm not necessarily listening to a podcast. I'm thinking of questions. I'm not writing them down. Granted, I do for important ones like Armory. I wrote down a bunch of questions prior. And we did do a public shout-out asking people to send their questions in, which worked out perfectly. But to be honest, with how we question our guests, pretty much all the questions that social media came with were already answered by the end of the show. Simply because we do hammer home. We need the people to know who we are interviewing. That's the whole point of an hour-long sit-down as opposed to a 4-minute blurb.
Dave, $1,000,000 question. Why should anybody, maybe they come across you on Facebook, a podcast. It's kind of new. It's kind of new for Rochester. Why should I listen?
Well, like Nick said, I mean, we have really great stories. We bring really great guests on. And honestly, I think for the most part, all ages can listen to our show and enjoy it because really there are, we have some episodes where we'll bring some rappers on or, some skateboarders, And yeah, I understand that's a little bit of a younger demographic or something. But then we bring in people like Nora Rome who brings in some of the animals from Oxbow Park and fills us in. And I'm blanking on his name right now, so I'm so sorry if he watches this. But our guy from the Dakota Pipeline, Guthrie, our man Guthrie. I mean, that was just a whole. He's yeah.
Attorney, his mom, same thing. Like Guthrie's history, and we're talking all down in Standing Rock, out in Standing Rock. Guthrie's family and his bloodline and his lineage runs deep. All the while, his mom, I believe, was from a tribe out in Washington State or Oregon. But yeah, I'll have to listen back to get more. But Guthrie is a dude who could talk forever. We got to get him back on.
Yeah, so like Guthrie, I mean, that was a learning experience. I didn't know a lot about Standing Rock going.
It can be educational.
Yeah, so I mean, and like you said, Judy Bratz, that was just an entertaining and a good experience just because you learn about. It's not always about us young kids and the new wave and all that. Like, we touch back to the old stuff because it's that old school stuff that set the foundation for what we're doing now. So, I mean, I really think if you just want to be overall entertained and maybe even learn something, it's worth checking out. Maybe not every episode's for you, but a majority of them are going to be something you'll be able to listen to, have a good time, and maybe learn something.
I tell something people got to Google.
Yeah.
People have to Google the actual length of Karsen Forsman's armpit hair. Google it, because I don't know. I don't know if it's 6 inches, 8 inches, but it's definitely long.
It was exposed on Saturday with the tank top on. All right, $500,000 question, and I know you already alluded to it. You want to be a marketing hub, but get more in depth, get more deep with this. What do you guys hope to become? Let's say in 2027. What do you guys want to be? And what do you guys want to be?
By then, you are going to pretty much be sick of us, because you're going to see us everywhere. We're not just a podcast. We are so much more. So you're going to see after our 507 drop, which is coming up, you're going to see a lot of skits. You're going to maybe see a news network, an online news network. Wink, wink. You're going to see a lot of stuff, and it's going to be a lot of content. We are content pushers, so that's the $500,000 answer. We are content pushers. That's what we do. I used to do a lot of illegal things that would make me money. I like to make legal money nowadays, so let's not even stop at a $500,000. Let's shoot for $1 billion.
$500,000 question, Dave. 10 years.
10 years, yeah. I mean, hopefully this is just still going strong. And like Nick said, we have a lot of different elements we want to bring in to round out what Stationary Astronaut really is. And we want to, progress our show and challenge ourselves every day to make it better and bigger. Obviously, we're getting a good, nice following here in Rochester, but I mean, eventually this is something we want to take beyond Rochester.
Well, we want to stay in your hometown.
Yeah.
You're not gonna leave us and go for
I mean, all right. I'm gonna say this. For the most part, majority of everything's gonna happen here. Everybody has those dreams. Everybody has those dreams of a nice big house on the beach or on the lake or wherever. So who's to say, may end up split in time between here and somewhere else? Who knows? But I mean, I know the other thing too is I've always had the MC passion of being a live MC. So I want to be able to make more of a living doing that while keeping this going with Nick and Tim. And just right now, it's just, there's just a lot of exciting stuff. Like Nick mentioned, there's videos, there's a news network possibly. Very exciting is we're going to try to actually launch a live show, like a live recording in front of a live audience this fall.
That'd be cool.
So everybody can come and actually be a part of it, see what we can do. Plus, it's a challenge to us to see, can we entertain a live crowd for 2 hours doing a long-form show and visually keeping people engaged that are going to be there in the room with us. So that's the biggest thing. 10 years from now, hopefully, we're just killing the game because every day we just challenge ourselves to get better.
Final words from Nicky M.
Pay attention to our progress because we have come a long way in the last 5 months. What we predicted would happen has been happening. We're getting asked to MC events and things like that. So that's big time. Just pay attention because we are only getting better, growing, and it's gonna be a big 2018. It's beyond 2017. We're gonna have a big 2018.
Appreciate it, guys. Thanks, Nick. I will put their Facebook in the comments, guys, after we end this broadcast. Stationary Astronauts again. Thanks, Dave. Appreciate it. I got to get up to end the live here. We're still live.
He's going to end the live. Come buy a car at Clements. That's where I'm headed.
Don't do it.
Or
Don't do it. Tom Cadillac.
Oh, jeez.